This is called Sugar Spoon. I noticed that my parents are still alive. They're quite elderly. They're in pretty good shape. It's a great blessing. I got to see their only grandchild grow up. But I noticed when I was home one time recently, they have the same sugar spoon that they had as a child, when I was a child, and it was old then. It's probably a 100-year-old sugar spoon. It's not like fancy or silver. It's just this crummy spoon. Sugar spoon. Low 7 digits, 1,265,000 approximately, until it's almost as flimsy as tinfoil. This spoon plunged into the same bowl every morning, 2, 3, 4 times, for half a century, 3/4. At night, deep in sweetness it rests. And at dawn, when the battered coffee pot begins to rattle, it's still sunk in the white grains, while outside snow drifts to the eaves almost, or in summer the sticky sugar hardens on it in little Arctic ridges. On the handle, my father's thumbprint, exactly on top of his thumbprint, thousands and thousands. Between each print of his, my mother's. It's going a bruised green in the recesses of its engraved viney tree sheep handle. It cost a few pfennigs once with its bowl. It will serve and serve until the bottom of its shiny curve grows so thin a tiny hole opens, and thenceforth it will leave a dusting of its cargo, a trail, a grainy Milky Way across the maple table from the bowl to my father's, my mother's coffee cup. This is called Early Blur. Early Blur. Early blur occurs, I say to Mary, when we catch the outline of something and think we know it, and then we fill in the parts we don't see with hope. I say this to Mary, Mary of the late slant light of autumn, Mary by the lake of wolverines, Mary by the lake beneath which drowned a wall, Mary of the first snow. I say to Mary, I am the river, and you are its blue, burning current. Just going to read 2 more poems. I had for many, many years a wonderful editor at Houghton Mifflin, my publishers, and his name was Peter Davison. He was my editor there for about 16 years, and he was the poetry editor of The Atlantic monthly for maybe 40 years, and he died last year. He was a sweet man, and this is an elegy for him. It's called The Gentleman Who Spoke Like Music, for Peter Davison. The gentleman who spoke like music was kind to me, though he did not have to be, who brought into the world 1,000 books, right there, a life well lived, who wrote a dozen or so himself, some prose about others, some his own poems, right there, a well-lived life, who corrected my spelling gently, and history, too, who once or twice a year would buy me lunch and later let me leave his office with shopping bags of books to read, who wore a bow tie sometimes and a vest, I think even a hanky in his jacket pocket, who was generous to me, the gentleman who spoke like music, who was kind to me, though he did not have to be. It's one of the last true men of letters in America. He was not only a writer, an editor, essays, poems, memoirs, published books by hundreds of different writers over the years. This last poem is called The Pier, as in P-I-E-R, where you tie up boats, aspiring, the pier aspiring, like we aspire to do something. It's spoken by the guy who's building this pier, and he's on the edge of the pier that's on the land, and he's telling somebody, talking to him about this pier that he's building. In that sense, it's a persona poem. It's also a kind of poem that's usually called an ars poetica, a kind of a particular writer-poet's take on their art form, their own kind of metaphorical definition of the art form of poetry. The peer aspiring. See if you can see how far out it goes. See? You can't see the end. I'd take you out there, but it's a 6-hour walk, and the work redundant. One board laid down after another. When the sun is high, the boards are hot. Splinters always pose a problem walking any other way but straight. What keeps me working on it, driving piles, hauling timber, what's kept my hand on the hammer, the barnacle scraper, what keeps me working through the thirst, the nights when the waves' tops pound the pier from beneath, what keeps me glad for the work, the theory is, despite the ridicule at the lumber yard that treks with pails of nails, my arms 2 centimeters longer each trip, the theory is this: it's my body's habit. Hand over foot, paycheck to paycheck. It's in the grain of my bones, lunch bucket to lunch box. It's good to wear an X on my back, to bend my back to the sky. It's right to use the hammer and the saw. It's good to sleep out there, attached at one distant end, and tomorrow adding to that distance. The theory is it will be a bridge. Thank you very much.